Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of football, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You are tuning in to Season 6, Episode 22 of Full Time. I am your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True House Media and True North Radio, visit SiouxSports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we are delighted to have you with us here on Full Time, where we get to have an in-depth discussion about the beautiful game. We were meant to record this midweek. We had some technical difficulties on my end. We've since gotten them sorted, so definitely pleased about that. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I was doing good on Thursday night there, but doing a lot better now. City got the big win earlier today. Got the Inter game on my other screen right now. I'm doing very well. How are you, Scarps?
I'm doing great, man. Glad that we get to record as well, and the footy is aplenty, and we definitely have a stacked show here this afternoon, so can't wait to get into things with you and everyone watching here today. In today's show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the Champions League, the FA Cup, and we will have a preview of the MLS season. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started with Europe's Big Five, and we will start by taking a look at the English Premier League. At the time of recording, Gitano, things have changed a little bit, but Arsenal sit atop of the table with 61 points. They have played one extra game, or at least they will, than their counterparts, that are also chasing the title and in the top 4. Manchester City has 56 points in second. Aston Villa is in third with 51 points. Manchester United is fourth with 48 points. The chasing pack of Chelsea and Liverpool have 45 points each and steadily climbing. The race for the title is good and well on, as is the battle for the Champions League places.
Yeah, title race. So even with City's win today, we're now just the 2 points behind you on even games as of right now. I think you guys play tomorrow, probably still, right?
Correct, against Chelsea. And I don't think that you guys get your game until later in March or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So it's going to be weird. The math is going to look weird until that's kind of caught up. But 2 points back, 10 games to go. It's weird that, and I didn't even realize it until the commentator said it during the City Leeds game. Like, if City win the rest of their games, like, they win the league. And I'm like, that's, considering kind of how off City have been this season, how good Arsenal have been, it's a very weird situation to be looking at. But even weirder to me is how Manchester United have somehow stumbled into the top 4. For all the jokes, like, I expected them to be kind of upper mid-table ish, kind of 7, 8, 9. I think it's maybe just a reflection of how, and we talk about how level the Premier League has been so far, like how deep it is. But I just think that kind of middle pack, Brentford, Chelsea, even Liverpool, haven't been that great this season, and it's allowed kind of a mediocre Manchester United team to somehow end up playing for Champions League football.
Yeah, and with Liverpool's win today, I think they've now made their case all the more. They won against West Ham, 5-2. So now they're pushing Manchester United as well, and things are going to get real interesting. To your point about Manchester United and some others for the race for those Champions League spots. And as for the top 2, Arsenal in first, Manchester City in second, it becomes one of those cases, Gitano, and you certainly know it better than me. Can't drop any points, and every game basically becomes a cup final. In the relegation zone, Wolves are bottom with 10 points. They did win against Aston Villa, so that'll bring them up to 13. Burnley is second from bottom with 19 points. West Ham is in the final relegation place with 25 points. Just outside the relegation zone is Nottingham Forest, who have 27 points. And above them is Tottenham, who have 29 points. Gee, there's a lot to unpack in the relegation zone, but the question has to be asked, and I'm not even sure that it is a question that requires debate anymore, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Just so we can end any wonderings in the wider footballing community that might be lingering, is Tottenham Hotspur officially in a relegation battle?
I think so. You sack your manager, you're in terrible form. You're 4 points off the drop. They have 11 games left. They haven't played their game this match week. Yeah, I think they are in a relegation dogfight. There's a very real possibility. So I think Burnley and Wolves are pretty much done for at this point, barring something incredible happening. But like I think there's a very real possibility that West Ham escape the drop and Spurs could definitely go down. Just the lack of cohesion on basically every level, from the owners to the football management level, to the coaches, to the players. Like it's just they're just a mess. And as much as this is going to sound like a biased thing to say, I think it would be great for them to go down. I think for them to have to kind of hit the big panic reset button, and not just kind of go, hey, we won a European trophy last year, like everything's fine. Like to actually have to hit the big panic button and say, okay, we need to reset things. We need to, from the top all the way down, kind of sort out what we're going to do. I think it would be better long term for them to go down, and that's again a wild thing to say. But just you can't keep having these like yo-yo seasons where you're winning a European trophy but nearly getting relegated, and then having an okay season and then nearly getting relegated. I think for them just to kind of set everything back to kind of a square one, rebuild from there, would probably be more beneficial than just scraping by in 17th and going, okay, you know what, last season was a write-off, and we'll try again this season. I think it would be better, and it would also just be hilarious. Let's be real.
I'm glad that you said it, because just for the banter alone would just be unbelievable. But yeah, we say it all the time, right? It's football, so anything could happen. It's the number one quote here on Full Time, and we say it all the time. But there's also another famous quote that's just not even been in the Premier League for ages: first-tier football in England, you're never too good to go down. So, you think about all the teams who have been relegated in the past, even though it may have been before the Premier League era. Anything could happen, Gitano. So I'm going to keep our eyes on the relegation zone, just as we are with the top four. Serie A in Italy has gone from the best title race in Europe to one that might soon be over. Inter have taken the league by storm, holding a 10-point gap over club rivals Milan. Napoli is third and Roma is fourth. Gee, an absolute overtaking from Inter here as we approach the business end of the season.
Yeah, and it's not even that everyone else fell off. It's just you drop a point here, a point there, everyone kind of has been. We've been talking about how kind of incredible that kind of top 6, top 7 in Italy has been the last couple of years in terms of competitiveness. Nobody's losing points at a rapid pace. Everyone's still in the fight, but Inter just have not been dropping those points. They just keep winning. They're currently up 1-0 right now. And yeah, it's wild that we can be saying, just before March that, Serie A is probably going to be the first title wrapped up. Well, I mean, Bayern Munich is, I think, already wrapped Bundesliga. We've discussed that at length since December. But in terms of actual real title races, this is going to be the first one that's over, and it's been incredible to watch.
Yeah, and just the sudden change of events, because we weren't talking like that about a month ago, but now we certainly are. So things absolutely have changed and shifted in Italy Serie A. Out in Spain's La Liga, remains as close as we could have wished for. Barcelona hold a 1-point advantage over second place Real Madrid. Villarreal holds third, while Atletico Madrid drop into fourth. Gee, we have been going back and forth all season on this, and I think we are officially safe to say that this will 100% be a 2-horse race from here on out.
Yeah, and I mean, both clubs in the last couple of games have stumbled. So Barcelona lost to Girona, and then Real Madrid lost to Osasuna. So still, I think there's gonna be some twists and turns, and there's gonna be some stuff that happens before the end of the season, definitely. But yeah, barring something catastrophic happening, it's definitely just going to be a Barcelona Real Madrid title race, which I'm not totally against. It's been super entertaining to watch. But I think it's, 10-point gap just about between Real Madrid and second, and Villarreal in third. So I'm going to say it's pretty much a two-horse race at this point.
True. Yeah, I'm with you, G. Two-horse race indeed. The Bundesliga in Germany is still all about Bayern Munich, but the job isn't finished yet. They have 60 points in first place. Dortmund are up in second with 52 points. Hoffenheim is third with 46 points. Stuttgart round out the top four with 43 points. Bayern can see the finish line, but they will require a few more strides to reach it, won't they?
Well, they got a big result today, beating Borussia Dortmund 3-2, puts them up to 63 points, 11 points up. I think kind of if there was going to be any sort of push from Dortmund, they would have had to start with winning this game. But losing, and not that they lost poorly, but just kind of in the fashion they did in such a critical moment, I think that has probably just taken the wind out of everyone's sails in Germany, and I think it's basically done at this point.
Well, and thank you for that update, Gitano, with that massive win for Bayern Munich. Again, at the time of recording, things have changed around a little bit from our intended midweek recording to now recording on the weekend. So that gap at the top there has increased all the more, to your point. France's Ligue 1 remains in the balance with PSG holding a 2-point lead at the top. They have 54 points to Lens's 52 points. Lyon holds third with Marseille chasing them. Gee, it's another two-horse race, this time out in France. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told us at the beginning of the season that the second best title race besides the Premier League was going to be in Liga, I don't think either of us would have believed anyone. But what do you know? PSG have hopped back into first, banking on a loss and a draw from Lens in their last two games. It looks like it's going to be an actually really fun title race. PSG having a hell of a time playing Monaco in the Champions League, and now they're also playing in their next fixture in the league. So it should be really combative. I'm really looking forward to watching these next couple of games, kind of seeing how it plays out before the final stretch. But for the first time in a very long time, Liga is looking super exciting going into March.
Oh, and you just took the words out of my mouth. How often have we ever said that, oh, I'm looking forward to the final stretch in Ligue 1? We've almost never said that, really. So the fact that we're saying it now is pretty awesome. Moving along, it is the Champions League that has its round of 16 set and ready to go. And we are going to recap the knockout phase playoffs for you all here and now. First, it was Atletico Madrid who took on Club Brugge in this round of the competition. After a 3-3 affair in the first leg, it was a second leg dominated by Atletico Madrid as they would win 4-1 at home and ultimately ending the high-scoring tie by a score of 7-4 on aggregate. Atletico Madrid move on to the round of 16. Plenty of goals to talk about in this one, but it's Atletico who get the better of the opponents, of which were Club Brugge, of course, in the end.
Yeah, I mean, not many times we've seen Atletico in, I don't know, basically since I've been watching football, concede 3 goals. So that was a shock to see in the first leg. A little more of a regular Atletico Madrid performance in the second leg, getting the 4-1 win. I thought they just took it up, not even 1 or 2 levels, but 3 or 4 levels in that second leg. They really locked in. I just don't think Club Brugge had an answer for anything they were throwing at them in the second leg. I think Brugge were at their absolute best in the first leg, and I thought it was a great result for them going into the second leg. But yeah, Atletico Madrid is far too much quality for them.
I think if you're Club Brugge to walk away from the first leg level, you know they were probably happy about that in the changing room and probably had a good atmosphere at training in the game or the days leading up to the next game, I should say. And at the end of the day, it's Atletico's quality that prevails in the second leg. Next, it was Newcastle who took on Qarabag, which turned out to be the most lopsided match or tie, I should say, of the entire qualification phase. After a 6-1 win for Newcastle in the first leg, it was smooth sailing as they would also win the second leg 3-2 and cruise their way to a 9-3 aggregate score. Newcastle breeze into the next round of the Champions League. Gitano, this one was done after the first leg, wasn't it?
I was done after about 40 minutes. Anthony Gordon had a hat-trick in the first half of the first leg. It was pretty much done and dusted from there. Just a super impressive performance from Newcastle. I think if anyone wasn't taking them seriously in Europe, and I know they were only playing Qarabag, who are not, any type of big hitter in Europe, but I think if anyone was doubting Newcastle in Europe at this point, this would definitely put them on notice. They're definitely a force to be reckoned with. And I'm very glad that City are avoiding them, at least in the next round. I know we're not talking about it till next week, but very happy City have avoided them.
Yeah, and to your point there, Gitano, I mean, Newcastle's form in the league hasn't been fantastic in the Premier League, that is. But you just wonder if most of their eggs are going into that Champions League basket, because they doesn't matter who you play, you got to beat what's in front of you, right? And they certainly did just that, and they looked emphatic in their victory against Karabag. Professional and business-like was the headline for Leverkusen against Olympiacos, as the German side would win their first leg 2-0 and see it out in the second leg holding a 0-0 draw. Leverkusen punched their ticket to the round of 16. G, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think nailed their professional and business like it. It very very much felt like they got their 2 goals, knew that they could kind of lock it down, didn't need to exert themselves offensively too much, just knew they could kind of park the bus and play pretty conservative football and get through. And Olympiacos just unfortunately didn't have enough quality to really challenge them even. It's not like they didn't try, but because I think their best was far far away from the level that Leverkusen were playing at. So yeah, ended up being one of the, I wanted to say, not disappointing in terms of the result, but disappointing in terms of I thought it would just be a little more even. But yeah, a pretty boring tie, pretty standard tie nonetheless. But Bayer Leverkusen definitely deserved to go through given the performance, especially in the first leg.
Yeah, and given their performance from a defensive point of view, absolutely deserving to go through. If you can say upset, you might as well scream it, as Bodø Glimt would pull off one of the biggest Champions League upsets that we've seen in a long while, beating last year's finalists Inter over 2 legs by a score of 5-2 on aggregate. Gee, the first leg went in favor of Bodø Glimt by a score of 3-1, and you almost think, okay, Inter will figure it out in the return leg at home. And then Bodø Glimt go ahead and beat them again, this time by a score of 2-1, and completely shock the footballing world. This has to be one of the most unforeseen upsets in recent memory, Gitano.
Yeah, like when we had talked about it, when we previewed it, we said, if it was a one-off, maybe you take Bodø Glimt, they're on good form in Europe. And so them going and winning the first leg, I was like, oh, you know what? Hey, we sometimes know what we're talking about. We're pretty good at this. But like the fact that, the second leg was at the San Siro, I thought Inter, not they played a weaker squad in the first leg, but like I definitely think they could have, played a little more of their quality in the lineup. I fully thought they'd go to the San Siro, and I thought Inter were just going to, bring the hammer down, win 4 or 5-0, and kind of just, chalk the first leg up to just, mistake, accidents happen type thing. But Bodø Glimt played phenomenally. That is it's maybe not aesthetically pleasing, but it's some of the best football I've watched. In terms of, you are, to say underdog would not even be enough, to just be so counted out of a game, go to such a legendary stadium against one of the best teams in Europe in the last probably decade, and get that result is just massive. And you look at their last 4 Champions League results: beat City, beat Atletico, and a double against Inter. Just phenomenal stuff. No matter what happens for the rest of this competition for them, that group, they've cemented themselves as legends for that club. And we're going to talk about this run, even if they go up, if they lose 10-0 in the next round on aggregate, like we'll still talk about that time that Bodø Glimt eliminated Inter not even in the round of 16, in like the first playoff round. Just phenomenal stuff.
I think we may have mentioned it once or twice on Full Time that it's football, so anything could happen. So that right there defines it. Absolutely unbelievable from Bodø Glimt. A comeback was on the cards for the Dortmund-Atalanta tie, and it did not disappoint. After Dortmund went up 2-0 after the first leg, it was the return leg at Atalanta that would prove to be the difference, as Atalanta would win on their home patch by a score of 4-1 and 4-3 on aggregate. Gitano, Atalanta showed their muscle, and Dortmund seemed to go away when the going got tough. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the foul obviously for the penalty in the 97th minute when you're tied in a Champions League tie and you swing your leg backwards at head height. I don't know what Ben Sebaini was thinking. That was just like reckless and careless and stupid. Don't even begin to cover it. Like, just incredible head loss, and obviously for Atalanta to go ahead and score that penalty in such a massive moment was huge. I thought this was a super fun tie. It's basically exactly what I expected from them, which was just chaos, mostly. Just, no defense, just vibes. I thought it was a really, really, really fun tie. I think it was a little bit of a bummer that it ends with the drama of the late penalty, but like absolutely penalty, absolutely the red card. Like little bit of a bummer just to see it kind of a tie of that much kind of fun and quality get spoiled by the ending. But I think over the course of the two legs, I do think Atalanta was a little better, so I think they did deserve to go through.
You just wonder if the pressure was just mounting a little bit too much to make a decision like that. We see it with young players often, like that's a part of the learning and growing process as a young player that you have to make those types of mistakes. But then you see it at professional level, you just wonder just the same, like can pressure get to these guys just the same? And I think clearly given that moment, Gitano.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just this if it was like forward, if he was facing and like went to clear it and lift his leg forward, I would kind of see it. But he swung his leg like backwards, and I'm like, I just don't get, like, not in a billion years would that ever be my first or second or third or fourth instinct? It's just swing my leg up backwards. But I mean, hey, he's the professional footballer, so I can't say too much. But yeah, just I mean, questionable decision to say the least.
I would say so, but what's not questionable is that Atalanta is through to the next round. Goals galore would be the storyline for Juventus and Galatasaray. This tie almost ended in a dramatic comeback as well, but it wasn't to be. After a 5-2 home win for Galatasaray in the first leg, it was Juventus who had put themselves up 3-0 after 90 minutes in the second leg, thus making the score 5-5 on aggregate. This would set up extra time where Galatasaray goals from Osimhen and Yilmaz would provide the 2-goal cushion needed as Galatasaray would go on to win an incredible affair by a score of 7-5 on aggregate. Gitano, just unbelievable scenes in this one.
Yeah, this was a super super fun tie too. Galatasaray, the first leg, winning 5-2. We both picked them to go through. I didn't think I would see a game like that from them, especially against a team like Juventus, who are they're a good team. They're maybe not at the level that they used to be. Kind of one of the top teams in Europe, but still a very very solid team. So for Galatasaray to go and smash them 5-2 in the first leg, I was shocked. Wasn't shocked to see Juve come back and force the extra time in the second leg. I thought they had far too much quality to kind of go down without a fight. But it was a really mature and really smart performance, I thought, especially in extra time from Galatasaray. Kept their heads, didn't swing their leg backwards in the 97th minute to give away a penalty. Because they could have definitely lost their heads given the Juventus comeback. They forced extra time after such a dominating first leg performance. So I thought it was fantastic for them to kind of keep their heads and go ahead and get this huge result. I would definitely say they are a dark horse in this tournament at this point. They are just a really really well built and like a very efficient running team right now. And again, very glad City avoided them too.
Absolutely. And, we talked about it earlier with Spurs about doing a reset. You wonder what's going to happen with Juventus if a reset's bound to happen there because the league form hasn't been great down the past few years. Now Champions League, out before you even reach the round of 16 for a club of that stature and that ilk, it's just not good enough if you're Juventus. So you wonder what kind of shakeups are going to happen there this summer. PSG had a lot of work to do against Monaco, as you mentioned earlier, Gitano, during our League 1 discussion, but they would eventually get over the line. After a 3-2 win for PSG in the first leg, it was a 2-2 draw in the return leg that would allow PSG to move on to the round of 16. PSG win the tie by a score of 5-4 on aggregate. Gitano, what did you make of this one? Because to me, it almost looked like PSG were running on some tired legs.
Yeah, I think it's not often you see these kind of matchups within the same league in the first knockout phase. Actually, in like the old format, you actually never saw it specifically for that reason. But I think just an added extra pressure of knowing that this AS Monaco team knows you well. Like they play you at least twice in the league. Probably meet them in one of the French Cups at some point. Like there's familiarity that you don't get with a Galatasaray or Juventus or someone else. And I think it was just that little bit of added pressure for PSG to know that like we can't, couldn't really go into it and not wing it, but it's just the game plan had to be just so much stricter, just given the the intimate knowledge that they have of each other at that point. And I think for this PSG team, we've always talked about, like, especially the last 2 or 3 years, like, they're a very young team. They're just kind of learning to win together. Um, so I think this is the first real challenge for them in terms of, not going into a tie thing thinking like, okay, we can just out firepower these guys. Like, AS Monaco know that's the game plan. They know, they've seen it, they play it in the league. I think it was just mentally a bigger challenge for them, and pleasantly surprised that they got through it. I don't want to say with ease. It wasn't easy for them, but they definitely didn't falter. They didn't make it too much harder on themselves than the kind of surface level of the tie was. I thought it was a pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, for sure. And what I also found to be interesting was after the tie concluded, Luis Enriquez, the manager of PSG, incredibly calm about the whole thing. And basically said, yeah, this is kind of what we expected. Both teams in the same league. It's always going to be competitive. Yes, it's normal to be tired at this stage of the season playing how many games we've played, but still proud of the guys. So I still think that PSG, even though they didn't look, let's say, the top level that we saw maybe last season, still did more than enough to get over the line, and probably going to bode well for them moving forward in this competition, and I would also say in Ligue 1. And finally, it was a rematch from the league phase where Real Madrid would take on Benfica over 2 legs. Magic did not strike twice, however, as Real Madrid would win both legs en route to an aggregate score of 3-1. Gitano, plenty of controversy in this one, and unfortunately, it would not be on the footballing side of things that would make the headlines, but Real Madrid do go through despite some really contentious hardships and difficult matters dealt with by the powers that be, given some racism accusations on the pitch. So kind of a sour note to end on with that tie there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just strictly looking at the football first, like, pretty straightforward, the ties, I thought. Real Madrid were the better team in both games. Benfica never really kind of found that level that we saw in the league phase. So not surprised to see Real Madrid go through. And then obviously with the comments towards Vinicius and Mbappe is just like, it's 2026. Why? Like, how is this still a thing? I don't get it. The Benfica player, I don't even know his name. It's not even worth remembering, if we're being totally honest. I would just kick him out of the Champions League for, give him 10, 20 games. Just that'd be how I deal with it. You want to make those stupid comments and act defensive about it, and you didn't, like, everyone, all the players on the pitch heard it, the refs heard it. Like, just ban him. You want to do something as stupid as this, just ban him from the rest of the tournament. It's like you said, a shame that the Champions League tie is kind of marred by that. And yeah, just a really bummer way to kind of wrap up this whole league phase, or the sort of knockout phase.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the player, which, to be perfectly honest, I don't remember his name, but he was unable to play in the second leg due to a 1-game suspension. The only thing that kind of, if you want to call it, saved him was the fact that he covered his mouth when he said what he said, which obviously we won't repeat here on air. But very unfortunate that the tie has to end in that way on a bit of a sour note. But we'll keep it as positive as we can. Real Madrid rightly do go through. So, Gitano, to review our picks, we both go 5 for 8. So not a bad showing given the major upset, of course, with Bodø Glimt, and of course, with some of the other ones as well. So, yeah, not too shabby. 5 for 8. Well done, sir.
Yeah, 5 for 8, not too bad. I'm annoyed I didn't pick Bodø Glimt. I thought about it last time. I really did, but I was like, I can't say something that stupid on the air. But I guess I've learned my lesson. I will say stupider things going forward.
Yeah, you and me both. Now that the knockout phase playoffs are done and dusted, that means the round of 16 in the Champions League is set and ready to go. In our next episode of Full Time, we will preview the round of 16 for you all. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. The FA Cup is ready for the 5th round proper, which means 16 teams remain in the competition. We will preview those matchups along with our predictions here and now. Fulham will take on Southampton in a clash to see who will get into the quarterfinal. Gitano, does championship side Southampton prevail, or will Fulham do the business?
This is actually, I think, going to be a pretty fun match. I think when you kind of look at a lot of the matchups, they're pretty. I think I don't want to call them easy, but like pretty easy to kind of say the team in the higher division is going to win. But this one, Southampton's been decently good in the championship this year. We always know that they're a talent farm type of team. They're always bringing in exciting young players and selling them on. So I'm excited to see their young talent kind of on display. You don't see as much championship football use on TV. It's a little harder to find, so I'm excited to see them play. But I do think Fulham are going to have enough quality to see them through. But it should be a very fun game.
I agree with you that it'll be a fun game, a close game, an entertaining game, but I am just going to edge Fulham like you, Gitano. The winner of Port Vale and Bristol City will take on Sunderland. The Port Vale and Bristol City game isn't to be played until March 3rd due to some scheduling conflicts. But regardless of who wins that game, do you foresee Sunderland getting upset in this round of the Cup?
I do not. I still think, regardless of who they play, Sunderland are going to go through, barring a major upset. But yeah, I think Sunderland have too much quality. They've looked so good this year, especially just coming up from the championship. I definitely think they'll go through.
Yeah, I don't particularly believe that whoever they play will beat them. So I, like you, Gitano, will also take Sunderland. The tie that everyone will have their eyes on, and for good reason, will be Newcastle United against Manchester City. This is the absolute best matchup of the entire round, and it's not even close. You'll tell us why you believe Manchester City will win, but truly, how eventful could this match end up being?
I think this is going to be a banger of a match. So we've already obviously played them twice in the league. We played them in the Carabao Cup semifinals over 2 legs. Like I said in the last segment, very lucky to have avoided them in the Champions League. Got them in the FA Cup. We've just seen a lot of Newcastle, especially in the last couple of months. So I think there's some just, that the familiarity that just is going to breed conflict, just professionally, nothing crazy, but just when you play the same team 4 or 5 times over the span of 7 or 8 weeks, you're just that animosity is gonna build. Obviously, Newcastle are going to be upset losing out, obviously in the Premier League, but also in the Carabao Cup semi-final. So I think they're going to want a bit of retribution. The game is at St. James Park, So that should just kind of fire the crowd up and level up the atmosphere even more. But I do think City just have far too much quality for Newcastle. I think if Newcastle, like you mentioned in the Champions League segment, I think they're going to be very focused on the Champions League. And not that they're going to fully rotate and play their B team against City by any means, but I do think, given the chance to rest a couple of key players, they might rest 1 or 2. And whereas City, with Pep, we're just going full throttle all the time. So I think that'll be the difference, and City are going to go through.
This one is so interesting for so many different reasons, and maybe if Newcastle would have edged one of the games against Manchester City earlier this season, I would have been more inclined to take them, especially to your point that the game's played at St. James Park. But for me, Manchester City has shown too much quality and too many different ways of being able to beat the likes of Newcastle. I believe in the last game, it was Nico O'Reilly who scored both of the goals.
Yep.
So that in and of itself just goes to show the sort of variety in which Manchester City can play. I think that they're going to do it again. So, Gitano, I am also going to take Manchester City. Leeds United will take on championship side Norwich City. An interesting one here for Leeds manager Daniel Farke, who also used to manage Norwich, and now he will be playing against them to potentially knock them out of the cup. Who comes out of this one, Gitano?
I think this is going to be a close one as well. Norwich have a ton of quality for a championship team, but having just lost Josh Sargent to Toronto FC, which is a huge score, and we'll talk about shortly, I just think there's just a little bit of firepower lacking from there, and I think Leeds have just enough firepower to get through there. Should be a really, really fun game. Ellen Road is always going to be a tough place for anyone to play, especially a championship team coming up. So I do think Leeds are going to go through.
Yeah, and Leeds is going to be the type of team because they still have to do some work to make sure that they stay out of the relegation zone. I know that that's in the Premier League, but they're still in this competition, so it's going to be a case of, well, why don't we just put all our hands on deck type thing? And I think that will be too much for Norwich City, so I too am also going to take Leeds. League One side, Mansfield Town will take on Arsenal in this round of the Cup. We can call this David and Goliath, minnow versus shark, or whatever you want, but it is football, and as we see on Full Time here all of the time, we said it even a bunch this episode, anything can happen. But the big question here is this: is there a monumental upset on the cards potentially?
I'm gonna pick Mansfield Town just for the sake of not
Yeah, I knew
picking
that was.
Arsenal. um, mostly just for the sake of not picking Arsenal, and that way, if they do get upset, I have one more prediction over you. But I'll let you kind of go into it a little more, considering you're the Arsenal fan. But yeah, Mansfield Town just for the sake of it.
Uh, fine and fair, but I knew that was coming, to be honest. I already wrote down your answer before you even said it. So, yeah, I'm obviously going to take Arsenal. I genuinely believe that they will win. It's a case of one of the best teams in England, one of the best teams in Europe at this moment in time, up against a League One side, and no disrespect to them, because, again, you got to beat whatever's in front of you. But Arsenal will go into the game with a rotated side, but a side that will be hungry to prove something to the manager as to why those players should be playing. And I think that it will be a case of Arsenal getting over the line. I don't want to say comfortably, but in relatively comfortable fashion. So, of course, I will take my team, Arsenal. Wolverhampton Wanderers will take on Liverpool to see who will advance to the next round. Who are you taking here?
It looks like it's an easy one. Obviously, given their domestic form, Wolves being terrible and Liverpool being challenging for the Champions League. But Wolves have been a bit of a bogey team for Liverpool the last couple of years. So I'm still going to take Liverpool, but I just don't think it'll be as easy as everyone would assume it will be. Like I said, for some reason they're a bogey team for Liverpool, so I expect something to go wrong. They'll give up an early goal to Wolves and have to claw it back, or Wolves will score a late one to make it close, and something like that's going to happen. But I think Liverpool will go through regardless.
Yeah, I'm so tempted to take Liverpool, but I don't know. I just feel like all the sort of animosity and sort of unknowingness surrounding Liverpool this year, albeit they still are in the Champions League and these types of things. I think that that's just going to play on them maybe just a little bit. So I'm going to take Wolves just because I probably do have to pick an upset somewhere in here. And that for me is going to be the one. So I'm going to take Wolves in that one, Gitano. Championship side, Wrexham will take on Chelsea in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Unless if you are a Chelsea supporter or if you're a Chelsea player or involved in the club, I think everyone's going to be pulling for Wrexham. But ultimately, what will the outcome be?
I think Wrexham will do it. We've seen them in the last few years, especially since the takeover. We've seen them kind of rise up to big moments. The results haven't always gone their way, but they always are there. They're always, giving it 110%, always pushing it as far as they can. And I just think this Chelsea team's a little bit mentally weak. I think they're a little fragile. They're still not quite the finished product at all. I think if this Wrexham team puts some pressure on them and really goes for it from the off, they could kind of break down mentally this Chelsea team and just frazzle them. And I think they can steal the result. I think it would just be phenomenal. And also, I just don't like Chelsea. So, and I do really like Ryan Reynolds. So,
I look at context and I look at circumstances and situations. Chelsea has a young manager, a manager who I think is good, but still trying to figure things out. A squad that is incredibly young, but still trying to fight for Champions League places in the league, still in the Champions League. So at some point, I think something has to give. And if I'm going to say that something's going to give somewhere, I'm going to say it's going to be in this competition. So I am also going to take Wrexham because if Chelsea is going to falter anywhere, I believe it will be now. And finally, West Ham United will take on Brentford. Who moves on?
I think this is going to be Brentford. I think mostly because West Ham are just not going to be focused on this game at all. I think they're just focused on survival in the Premier League. I think they'll rotate, give some of their top players a break. And I think even it's still going to be a close game. It's not like Brentford's going to smoke them or anything, but Brentford should win this one pretty comfortably. And I think just West Ham have far, far bigger fish to fry than the FA Cup right now.
Yeah, and a report just came out today that over 100 million lost for West Ham this past year. You want to talk about bigger fish to fry? Yeah, on the pitch for sure, trying to avoid relegation. But my goodness, we could be looking at some insane stories with West Ham moving forward in the years to come if they can't figure things out financially. Gitano, I'm also going to take Brentford. So to review these picks, Gitano, we do have a lot the same. You're going to go Fulham, Sunderland, Man City, Leeds, Mansfield, Liverpool, Wrexham, Brentford. I'm going to go Fulham, Sunderland, Man City, Leeds. Differ with you there. I'm going to take Arsenal. I also am going to take Wolves, but then also taking Wrexham and Brentford like you. So the FA Cup fifth round proper will take place the weekend of March 7th with all games broadcasted on your local television sports network. It's nearing the end of February, and that means spring is slowly on its way, but it also means that the MLS season is back, and we are here ready for all things Major League Soccer. Gitano, this absolutely sneaks up on us every single year without fail, but how are you feeling now that the MLS is back for yet another season?
I wasn't feeling too great about it, given TFC's situation, but the last week, front office remembered that they could sign players and make the team better, and they made a bunch of signings and made the team a little bit better. So it's been a lot more exciting. I was kind of dreading the first little stretch here until management got their heads on. But now that TFC are doing things and trying to be good, I'm very much looking forward to this season. I'm super excited, and I just can't believe that it's already here. It feels like we were literally just talking about the MLS Cup final, like a couple weeks ago. It feels like.
It always seems to feel that way, and there is a very quick turnaround between the season ending and the season starting, which is mostly the case for all leagues in football. But absolutely loving that the MLS is back for the reasons that you mentioned with TFC, of course, but also because in a sort of personal way, like nights like tonight, we're recording here on a Saturday, and then in a few hours' time, like as I'm finishing up the things that I got to do for the weekend with laundry and food prep and everything else, games are going to be on my television, and it's not just great background noise, it's something that I genuinely enjoy to watch. So absolutely delighted that the MLS is back. And to take you all back through last season, it was the Philadelphia Union and San Diego FC who won the Eastern and Western Conferences respectively. In the playoffs, it was Inter Miami who would charge their way to their first ever MLS Cup, defeating Vancouver by a score of 3-1. Gee, we were entertained last season and some, and the playoffs were nothing short of awesome in terms of how the season finished. But that was last season. What can we expect this season, and who do you foresee as doing well?
So it's going to be a little boring. I think, well, obviously, Inter Miami is going to be one of those kind of top teams in the league. Just Lionel Messi just kind of speaks for himself. And also, the Philadelphia Union have just built, in the last almost 4 or 5 years now, a really solid foundation. They're always a top team in the Eastern Conference, going on deep playoff runs. So I think those kind of out of the East are kind of my two. Like, if that's the Eastern Conference final, I wouldn't be surprised. And then when I look out West, I don't know if Vancouver is going to be able to like fully recreate the magic from last season, just how dominant they were in MLS. I do still expect them to be kind of in the top two or three. I think LAFC, a full season of Heung-min Son is going to be massive for them. So I'm really excited to see what he does in the league and how he adapts, because for the short little while that he played, I only played a handful of games. He was great, so I'm excited to see what he does over the length of a full season. And then I hate to say it, but the Seattle Sounders are just always there. They're just a pain in the rear end that never go away. I expect them to be one of the top teams in the West as well, go for a relatively deep playoff run. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't see anything crazy happening. I don't think like Montreal or Toronto are gonna make big runs this year. A lot of rebuilding going on in the bottom of the conferences.
Yes.
But I will say I do expect the LA Galaxy to have a better season, mostly because they can't have a worse season than last year. But yeah, just considering the financial outlay there, the pressure, the quality of player they have, like there's just no way they finish bottom of the conference again. So I expect them to kind of turn it around. Maybe a playoff team, maybe not, but they just regardless won't have as terrible of a season.
Thank God for them there's not relegation, because that could have been, my goodness. Gitano, yeah, I think this very well is going to probably be a season of the top teams being the top teams, given your suggestion there of so many teams rebuilding. But that just makes the future of the MLS all the more competitive. So we might not see a ton of teams going for it this year, but we'll definitely see the best teams being the best teams. And I'm looking forward to that very much. And of course, our beloved Toronto FC is looking to make continued strides and improvement. Gee, what can we expect from TFC this season?
I think the biggest thing is we should expect a little more competent of an attack. With the signing of Josh Sargent as a DP from Norwich, it's huge. He just scores goals. That's what he does. American striker. I want to say he's only like 26 or 27. Like,
Yeah.
plenty of room ahead of him. Yeah, he's 26 years old. Actually, just turned 26. yeah, just he's going to bang goals. And TFC haven't had like a true proper number nine basically since Josie Altidore left. We had like a couple of random guys kind of filling in there, but like no real quality, like just guarantee. I think in his worst MLS season, he's going to put up at least 10 goals still. Like he's going to be a fantastic player for us. And then getting Daniel Saloy, I don't know how to pronounce that, from Sporting KC, just an ever-present MLS player. And I don't mean this as like an insult when I say like he's just like he's a quality MLS player. He knows the league. It's not like he has to adapt to anything. He's just someone similar to when we brought in Mihailovic as a DP. He's not a fantastic world altering signing, but he's a really high quality MLS player. Knows the league. Kind of doesn't have to adjust any of that. Is just going to kind of fit into on the sides of the attack there. And I think just having a competent functioning attack is going to be a huge boost for TFC. I think there's still issues in the midfield and in defense. They're still very young in those positions, but I think just having a striker or a winger that can bail us out with a goal here and there, having attacking midfielder who can create a chance here and there, I think it's going to be just a massive boost that we really haven't seen TFC have since the glory days of Seba and Josie. Maybe Pazuello was good too, but yeah, I just think it's just going to be nice to see a team that can, score a goal. I think we're going to lose a lot of shootouts this year. I think there's going to be a lot of high scoring games, and we might not always end up on the right side of them. But I think you're just going to see improvement in that sense that at least one facet of the team is going to function. And if going forward we just have to kind of focus on building a bit of a better midfield and defense, I think that's a significantly better situation that we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and it's interesting, still speaking, of course, about TFC, but just the MLS in general. When you're looking to rebuild a team, you typically have to do it bit by bit. You can't just be like a top team in Europe, like Liverpool, for example, that went out and spent, hundreds of millions in the transfer window and basically put pieces in every position of the team. When you're talking about it from an MLS perspective, you're going to have to do it bit by bit. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if it would take TFC another 2 or 3 years to really get back to where they want to be challenging, because you are going to take some time, of course, to rebuild. But I still think, Gitano, that strides and improvements, to your point, will be made this season, even though there will be some ultimately some defeats and things like this. But I'm still looking forward to the improvement that TFC can make this season. And Gitano, who is your potential winner this season in Major League Soccer?
It's going to be the boring answer, and as long as Messi plays in the league, I'm going to pick Inter Miami.
Sure.
He still has that level of quality where even if they play a terrible game, he can create a chance out of nothing. He can bang one from 30 yards out of nothing. He can just change games like that. I think as long as he is in the league, and his legs and knees haven't gone, they're still going to be the top contender for MLS Cup every year. Unless someone else builds like a super team elsewhere in the league, I think it's going to be Inter Miami as the favorite every year.
It's so difficult for me to go against that, but I have to say what I'm going to say based on when we reviewed the MLS Cup final back in December. I think moments of heartbreak, and moments is plural, moments of heartbreak for the Vancouver Whitecaps is going to turn into triumph this season. So for that reason, the heartbreaks that they experienced last season, I think will turn into at least one triumph this season. So I am going to take the Vancouver Whitecaps to win the MLS this season, possibly, Gitano, a rematch of this past MLS Cup, which would be reminiscent of when Toronto FC did it, right?
I was just about to say, you basically want them to do the 2016-17 TFC, lose to Seattle in the final, and then come back and win it against Seattle. Which, I mean, other than the fact that I don't want to see another Canadian team win it, because I just like the fact that TFC are the only Canadian team that have won MLS Cup. I think just for the story itself, being like right in the middle of it, going to both of those TFC finals, it was a roller coaster of a year, going from losing one MLS Cup final to, at that time, the best season in MLS history, capped with a treble. I think like the narrative would be fantastic to witness from the outside. Having experienced it from the inside, it'd be really cool. But just like for anyone but a Canadian team.
And see, I know we talked about it before. I am a little bit different as a TFC fan than most TFC fans. That I like, if Montreal were to win it, obviously different story. I would be really upset and I wouldn't be having it. But in the case of Vancouver, they've always kind of been a staple, at least since I've been watching the MLS, since, basically we forged our friendship a little over 12 years ago. And I've always really respected them as a club. They have great involvement here in the province of Ontario with their affiliate academies and things like that. Got to play against them a multitude of times as a coach. So again, I don't mind Vancouver at all. But I do expect them, or at least I'm hoping that they will win this season, if not TFC. The MLS, of course, is back, and we are more than excited to be covering it right here for each of you throughout the season. You can get all of your Major League Soccer updates right here on Full Time. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano, Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we get ready to close out today's program, we want to extend our warmest thanks to all of you. We appreciate you being with us. Gee, we covered a heck of a lot here today. Awesome work, my friend.
Yeah, awesome job to you as well. As always, thank you for having me. If again we look at, I looked at my notes, like we covered a lot, but it feels like we've been talking for like 5 minutes. I love it. It's a beautiful way to spend a really cold, awful Saturday afternoon. So yeah, I'm just very, as always, very grateful to be here. I've got the big game tonight. It's TFC and Vancouver playing tonight, actually. So
Yes.
Should be a banger of a game. Hopefully Josh Sargent is in the lineup. I would love to see it. But yeah, thank you very much for having me.
And thank you very much. Of course, thanks to everyone who's tuned in today. As always, we will be back very, very soon. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of March 2nd, 2026. In that show, we will take a look at the Champions League, and we will get into another game of Agree to Disagree, where Gitano and I jaw back and forth about some of the hottest topics in football and topics specific to Manchester City and Arsenal. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, share, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at sutoday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning into Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.